solution for the gang banging. No fret, breaking news investigating. Breaking news, news breaking. All I believe is talking. Breaking news, news breaking. Most of it heart-wrenching. Breaking news, news breaking. Mama, please stop crying. Breaking news, news breaking. Scratching my head, contemplating. For years, we watch you no abuse you no power. Most of things say we suffer from amnesia. Oppression, they pump for them agenda. You could tell by them aggressive nature. Cocaine is slip through the border, but for a weed seed, you get charged for murder. Forget about the threat from Guatemala. Like that, done on news, no money either. Election time, clipboard and paper. Then they fight to forget me Lee's signature. Them say CD, my life will be better. But a promise is nothing but a fool's comforter. No retreat, no surrender. Divided we fall, we stronger together. Add fire to the flame and blow lava. On all of them politics stop. Breaking news, news breaking. The whole of Belize is talking. Breaking news, news breaking. Oh, people keep on suffering. Breaking news, news breaking. Hey, mama, please stop crying. Breaking news.
All right, looks like we're live. Are we live? Mic check, mic check, mic check. George, if you're on, your mic is muted. Hello, hello, hello. Yo. Anybody home? I see the lights are on. Anybody home? I see we're running live 2 minutes into the show. Is anybody hearing me? Is my mic? My mic is on. George, I see your lips moving, but your mic is muted. Your mic is muted. There you go.
All right. Good night, Mr. Chair. I actually had the volume muted also.
Okay. Good move.
Yes. Good night, my brother.
Yes, man. All right. Well, we're just me and you here. So we're pilot and co-pilot the ship until the rest of the guys come on board. I was hoping with giving them more time, they'd have been able to be here on time. But I imagine they'll drop in later on. We have a couple of things we have to discuss. Your buddy, our mutual buddies, Anthony Sylvester, who had consented, if you will, to be on the show, told me that he wasn't quite prepared yet for the discussions that he thought we would be having. Did you reach him at all, sir?
I called him up to 10 minutes ago, Mr. Chairman, and he goes straight to voicemail. It's good that you got in touch with him, or at least he responded to you, because I've been trying since yesterday.
Yeah.
I just got off a conversation with the producer of the show, Mr. CY, and I was telling him that we needed to, there are some technical crossing of the T's and dotting of the I's that we need to do before we get anybody on board. And I had sent to Mr. Sylvester what the requirements were, but I haven't heard from him.
Yeah. I spoke to him. He told me that he would have called you immediately after we got through speaking. Apparently he didn't, no? So he's a very busy fellow. He did, though, tell me that he was under the impression it would have been just a basic personal talk with him, and not that we would not be going live and in front of our audience and whatnot. So he told me he was not ready for that yet, and that maybe we could reschedule, and that he would consider next week.
Um, which is good. For the listening audience, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say that I had asked Mr. Sylvester, and you had coordinated with him in relation to the Belize Constitution. Again, for those people in electronic land, the Belize Constitution is being revamped, reformed, and that's a policy position taken by the government of Belize.
Is it though? Is it though? I was under the impression it was just being reviewed at this point.
No. It's like making sausage, you know. It could be messy. It's starting from the ground up. So if it's just some limited tweaking, we would normally refer to it as amendment to the Constitution.
Right.
But this is more than or some amendments to the Constitution. This is basically starting from ground zero to reflect philosophically where the country is and what it is that we want in terms of a document that would guide the development of the nation going forward. So it's really a labor of the utmost that one would take in terms of putting together the script to put us where we need to be going into the future.
To ask you a question that I think needs to be answered, have they decided that they are going to revamp? I thought they were just going to go listen to the people and let the people decide whether they want something changed or not. But from what you're saying, the decision has been made that there will be a revamping and a change of the Constitution.
These guys are determined to change the Constitution at any cost, and the people consultation is just a gimmick to say that it's a people buy-in. I am very disappointed in the whole process, and it reminds me of when we talk about the tyranny of government.
Good night, Gregory.
Yes, sir. Sorry I broke in on you, but
now when you jumped in there, obviously I have strong feelings about that. I have one comment that I think is pertinent to the discussion. I think that instead of consultation, even at this point, we should start with education. Very few people even read the Constitution or know what's in the Constitution. And if you don't know what you have, you can't decide what you want to change about it.
Exactly.
I was thinking that a good idea, but for us to something that we could do was go through the Constitution and tear it apart limb for limb, starting with the preamble. And then maybe even every week we decide, well, we'll do a couple of sections and we look at it for what it is and see could we make heads and tails from it. Much of it is convoluted, if you will, and I can see trying to clear that up. But as far as the whole revamping of it, I'm a bit nervous about that.
Well, Mr. Chair, I know that my colleague, Mr. Morrison, I had formerly categorized him as a conservative gentleman, but it seems to me the way he came out swinging
boy, you good at it.
Constitution, I would have to revise my opinion.
Listen to you.
That's fine. Just keep trying to figure me out, Mr. Mike.
Hey! Don't let him intimidate you, Gregory. He's trying to silence you. These politicians are all alike, I tell you.
I know.
Now, I think Gregory will continue to surprise you. He has a sneaky way of getting relevant, so I wouldn't worry about him much. But really, we have to look at this, and if indeed they're talking about revamping it, then I will have to wonder if maybe Leonard Brackett himself might not be onto something. Are we really going towards republic. Is that what we want to do? Is that what the final outcome of this might indeed be? That there might be an agenda, George?
There is an agenda. This is not going on without some preset direction of where they want to take us. This is not just barging along. This is predetermined.
You see, Mr. Chair, I want to say two things. One, for the general listening public globally, there is a Constitutional Reform Act, and I am advising our people general, not only our people as in Belizeans and friends of Belize, but I'm inviting the globe to Google Belize constitutional reform, and they will see the act. And the act basically says that a commission has been empaneled to steward and manage the process. And that would include a number of issues. You did mention education, Mr. Chair. And that's a part of what needs to happen. I should say that it's a multidisciplinary commission. It pulls from the various strata of society, and the issue of education has been sounded repeatedly that this is important. To your point, you can't discuss something that you don't know about. In my view, if 1% of the Belizean public, both living in Belize, domicile in Belize, and or living in the diaspora, knows enough about the Constitution or is familiar with the Constitution to have an informed conversation, that's a lot. I believe it's a fraction of 1% that would have read some part of the Constitution. So a large part of the remit is to basically educate the public.
Yeah, but
that is there.
You're basically telling us that is the act saying that they will change the Constitution, or they will examine it to see if they should, and what parts then would they be planning on changing?
In principle, what the act says is that this is a new day for Belize. Belize has entered a new era September 21, 1981. But we have not decolonized. And in that context, we need to script our own constitution. Now, whether or not we retain 99% of what is, or whether or not it's the obverse of that, which is we change 99.9% of what is, has not been predetermined. That is to be.
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Maybe you are not on the in, but don't tell me that.
But see, I wanted to ask you, George, are you believing what you're saying, or are you singing from that song sheet?
That's my question.
Mr. Chair, are you assuming or presuming that that I am a part of a process that has predetermined what the outcome will be? Because
I'll let Gregory answer that.
Yes.
That is the farthest from the truth, Mr. Chairman. Nobody knows.
But you have not.
Despite Mr. Morrison's preconceived notion that everything is fixed and you can't change it.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I believe if the people make noise, it will change it.
That is what we want.
If they keep silent, then what is being planned will be railroaded right through. But if the people of Belize start taking this effort of what the government is doing, because they went about in a sneaky way of doing it, like you said, less than 1% of the people, and they put it in an act instead of having some type of educational process on the TV every single day. telling people what is happening.
But-
And in the schools.
What is
and in the
expecting.
schools.
Yeah,
Yes.
schools, on TV, wherever. Most of the
Students.
people, the students are going to be the last one to have input on this at this point.
And that's crazy. They should be the first. They should
No,
be-
they should, but I'm
Let's,
talking the people that are of adult suffrage, are the people that needs to be involved in this process mostly at this point. The students will have the effect of whatever decision is made.
Let me interject at this time because we jumped right into it quickly. But let us do a couple of things first. I'll leave housekeeping, if you will, if with your permission, guys. First of all, I have to acknowledge the passing of a Belizean legend, Robbie Dead.
Oh yes.
I know his that is not his real name,
Mm-hmm.
but with your permission, I request a moment of silence. All right, I really think that he was people who have not even who never met Robbie Dead know about Robbie Dead and know that what it is to Robbie Dead a bottle of stout. Most of us has done so when you go to a party and I want to get drunk too quick, so you Robbie Dead the stout. A guy that really made his mark and every gathering, he was the life of every gathering.
Yes.
Amazing fellow, and so he's gonna be missed. Just a colorful, flamboyant kid, and he seemed to have lasted forever.
Yes. Yes.
I grew up with Robbie Dead looking the same way. Who would have thought that he would have ever passed away?
Yeah.
Kind of like drive home the whole, the reality of life. No, that it doesn't. Well, not yet. Go on forever. I believe that at some point we are going to enter eternity, and I'm hoping that is sooner than later. But having said that, we really offer condolences to his family and friends. Buddy Brown in particular, who was very close to him. I remember meeting him in Buddy Brown's house on several occasions, and Buddy Brown's mother was very close to the gentleman. Any thoughts about from you guys?
I have one story. I don't know how true it is, but someone had long ago told me a story about once when he was at Melting Pot milking his stout, like you said, right? Someone said to him, "Hey, Robbie Dead, why don't you just down that and I'll get you one," and kind of made reference to the bartender to come over and take an order, right? And so Robbie Dead down his stout and put the bottle on the counter, and then the guy kind of reneged on it, and they said that was one time that Robbie Dead got real livid because he didn't have a warm bottle in his hand anymore. But he was a legend in Belize. I remember seeing him at MCC, at Bird's Isle.
He's a classic. Everywhere where anybody was.
Every place you go, you know. And he definitely had his own kind of swagger and was always like you said, a life of the party, doing his own thing. He always, from my memory of him, was always dressed nice and always looked good, and carried himself in a very decent and proper, and was an amicable fellow. So, you know, may he sleep in peace.
I don't know if you'd have called it nice, but certainly he had his own style. You see what I'm saying? He was different. You really hear he would be adorned with all kinds of stuff, man. You know, say, but he wore it well. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. When I said that, when I said he always had on stuff, you know.
I remember back in the 70s, and everybody would grow up at some point feels that when they were in the halcyon years in your youth, and the sky was the limit, was the best of times. I believe that the best of times in my youth was the 70s. That was the time of disco and P-Funk and Melting Pot.
Yes.
And Fire in the Barracks. You know, I don't remember Robbie so much in relation to Bird's Isle, but I recall that on Sundays and sometime on Saturdays, but definitely on Sundays, I used to jump the back fence to MCC to watch senior games. And the moment you got into where the public was and people don't know that you pay, but you're big and you're the inner like everybody else, there was Robbie Dead with a green suit. And somebody said, yeah, it was really a Superfly suit with a pointed shoes, a platform, and it was tight. It was tight. You know, one of my favorite artists back in the day was Johnny Guitar Watson. And Robbie reminded me of Johnny Guitar Watson. He wore that suit every Sunday.
I can remember that suit.
That suit seemed to have been pressed to a T. I don't know what he did, but he looked dapper in that suit, and that stout was always in his hand. Yeah. I don't recall anybody giving Robbie a new stout. So you know, you can't talk about football. I think the ex wrote a book, and I saw bits and pieces of it, called Sin, Sport, and Subversion or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I don't recall that he mentioned Robbie Dead, but that would be an epilogue for that book if indeed the ex did not. Because if you talk about football, the MCC in the days of football, I see my OG is in the audience in electronically, Sammy Gentle. Sammy Gentle was a giant and Charger Bear. And I'm sure that Sammy would have stories about Robbie Dead. May his soul rest in peace. I must say that Robbie has become, I think he was almost adopted by one of my colleagues, Dr. Pitts, and his wife, Miss Lara. And so I used to, on Saturdays, I go play dominoes at Dr. Pitts' place. And Robbie was there often. And then somebody said, "Boy, Robert, not if you too good, you know." And I'd like, but I see Robbie like 2 weeks ago, Robbie me look like the picture of health. You know, and then last week, Sunday or Monday, Dr. Pitts texted me and said, "Boy, burial pass." Because the people who know him from way back, they don't call him Robbie, they call him burial. So he told me, he said, burial pass. You know, a dear friend and colleague of mine, really. And so I'm asking Dr. Pitts to keep me in the loop. Sometimes I don't watch news as often as I should. But a legend has passed, and I appreciate that the chair has given him a moment of silence. No, rest in peace, Robert. Pa, burial, Robbie Dead.
All right, I see our good friend, protagonist, if you will. Mr.
Call a name or let
protagonist or provocateur?
Provocateur also, yeah. How are you, sir? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm fairly well. So I'm in good health so far, thank God. You know, and everything else after that is an extra bratter. So
I see
I'm ahead of the game.
I see your hero was successful in Belmopan. I mean, I think you call it right. You did call it, no?
Well, I'm more than call it, sir.
You worked for it. I see that.
Remember my secret missions to Belize?
Yeah, that's what we know. That
those were part of the things that I was over there trying to, you know, make sure.
Get him elected. That you bring the money
because it was political, or because that part of it was politically oriented, you know, and projected for future outcomes. As an operator, I couldn't speak to those things, you know.
You brought some of the tranche.
You know, I saw something.
Talking about the tranche, you brought that up.
I heard you said something.
You ever heard of any plane load of money coming into Belize?
Well, you bring it? No, I didn't have it.
I sent it, man.
You sent it. All right.
Whatever.
What did you say, Judge? What did you tell me about that?
No, Mr. Chair, you said something about some tranche, so I was just asking you to clarify. You know, I'm like a baby in the wood in these things. So
you're right. You're right. All right. You're right. You're right. All right. But you know what? Since we have you, we have your attention, Mr. Brackett, and you have you present, there's something I want to clarify. Because I did some research and questioning and asking around, and you made a statement here a couple of shows back that the PM's wife was a Guatemalan. Sir, you need to retract that, because the PM's wife is not a Guatemalan, and to throw something out there like that, I think is not fair. Can you?
Can somebody provide the evidence to show that she's not?
Can you provide evidence? Can you provide
statement?
Evidence? No, you're the one who made the statement, so you would
Yes,
need
but
to provide the evidence.
For anybody to disagree with what I'm putting out there and to say that I'm wrong, they need to come up with something else to back up what they're how to prove that I'm wrong.
Again, like I did, I went.
I mean, you can't disprove a statement with nothing.
Yeah, well, hold on.
That's not a fair approach.
I happen to have a question about her family, where she came from, and apparently the lady's from Orange Walk and has a lot of family members there and that are original Orange Walk Kenyans, if you will.
My information and my research indicates otherwise. So
well,
I wouldn't argue the point. I'd rather concede it, since I'm not the parent of the young lady. I'd rather concede that issue rather than debate it, because I have information that tells me otherwise.
Yeah,
but I cannot prove that what I'm saying is 100%.
So you don't
compared to what anybody else would say. Everybody else is entitled to their opinion on their ideas.
You don't have information.
I wouldn't flag that. You
don't have information. You have rumors.
Sir, I think you're trying to make a debate out of the issue. I really confused.
No.
What is the purpose of
there is a purpose, because when you throw something like that, is a very serious thing.
Sir, I've thrown a lot of other stuff out there that are also important, that gets no attention or traction.
Hold on. The fact is that social media now, you could get in trouble for what is true, and you get in trouble for what is untrue. With social media, when you put it out there like that, you need to be able to substantiate your allegations with some facts and some. If you say you got research and did research,
sir,
I think it won't be fair.
Could you permit me one word?
Yes, sir. One word.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be the day.
One word. Considered over with. Okay, at least for right now.
Is that to say that you will come back with the evidence that you?
Oh, Mr. Chairman.
No. But what do you mean one word over with? It's not. You said it, and you said it.
I exaggerated, and I got into one word, and still on the flag the house.
No. But that house is not dead. That is something you threw out there.
When I told you in the past that certain house wasn't dead, they told me I couldn't even say that because I have no proof otherwise. And I'm trying to say to you, unless somebody could prove otherwise than what I'm saying.
No, jump from. No. You cannot show an
for the purpose of not for the purpose of not being. Mr. Chairman, you are not the validator of those facts, sir. So why are you going to entertain an argument with me on something that you hear from somebody else? Please. I'm trying to get away from that.
No. It seems you put it out there having heard it from somebody else. Didn't you just say
Mr. Chairman, didn't I just told you that I'm not the parent of that person?
No.
So I can't prove anything else.
You didn't tell me that.
Other than what I've acquired by knowledge?
You didn't tell me that. If you said it, you did not only tell me that, but you told me that
you're pursuing an argument. You're being argumentative with me right now and pursuing a line of argument.
Let's move on, guys.
It's only wasting time.
Mr. Chair.
I don't think you understand what concession is or to concede a point is.
Let's move on.
Despite the fact that I have my evidence and other people have their evidence. You have your evidence, I'm conceding the information to you. I don't want to argue a point that I don't have
Mr. Brackett, it done.
I'm sorry. Should be. That's what I'm pleading to the chairman to let it be. Unless he wants to discuss it further at a future date, then I could provide evidence to him and whoever else needs it.
You will not shut up, right?
Right now, I can't. I'm not interested in pursuing that conversation.
Can you prove that this lady?
Sir, you cannot just grab me off the wall and paste me with whatever you want to paste me with. I'm not that person.
Did you say that? Did you say the Prime Minister's wife is a Guatemalan?
Sir,
Did
all you got to do is
say that?
go back to the tape,
No,
and you can affirm.
You can't argue like that. Don't argue like that.
Mr. Chairman,
answer the question.
you argue with me about something that has been said in the past. Go back to the tape and you validate exactly, instead of my having to try and tell you anything, because you have no, as far as you are concerned, anything that I have to say you're not interested in and you could care less about. So why just don't leave that particular issue alone? Leave that issue alone.
Mr. Chair,
if you want to discuss it, set up a time, we will discuss it. You provide your proof, I could provide my proof. But if you can't provide something to counter my argument or my stipulation, why you won't waste?
Mr. Chair, can we heed the observation by Mr. Morrison and move on? My only interest in this would be from a public policy standpoint. And whether or not the Prime Minister's wife is a Guatemalan, the only interest there would be that there are quite a few Guatemalans living in Belize legally as well as illegally. It's a public policy issue. But I don't want to get into the personal aspect of it. There's a saying that goes that small minds discuss personalities, larger minds discuss events, and really substantive minds discuss ideas. Let us keep it on an idea level. We spoke before Mr. Brackett joined. We were speaking about issues of the Constitution, and we were not seeking to have a constitutional debate. We were just referencing the fact that we were inviting a real constitutional expert in law and policy, Mr. Anthony Sylvester, to the show. But unfortunately, he has begged to reschedule. We were also, I also had some issues that I wanted to bring up. There's one thing on the radar right now in Belize, and it is that everything is not quiet in paradise. The unions, i.e. the PSU and the BNTU, seem to be headed in a direction where they might be bracing the government in relation to gratuity for teachers. There's also other issues on the radar, the whole issue of cost of living, the whole issue of the quote-unquote terrorists that has been granted. I don't know if asylum is the word in Belize. That is really an issue that has caught fire. And of course, you mentioned the issue of John Saldiva. I believe that that's an issue that needs to be discussed, not necessarily in that order. If people would agree with me, that those are things that we could treat with in this show. If I had my say, I would say let us start with the John Saldiva issue. If you believe that we should defer further conversation on the Constitution until we have Mr. Sylvester.
Whatever you guys want to do, we could do that.
Can I ask to be given a chance to say something specifically on piggybacking on Mr. Mavitt's observations?
Go ahead, sir.
When we bring on the experts in law and constitution to assist us to understand the peculiarities of whatever points we're trying to raise or discuss, or it would be nice if at least we can be given some kind of an input as regards to what particular section of the Constitution or what specific items or issues would be discussed, so that at least those of us who are interested in that particular subject strongly can do our own little updating and refreshing of the minds in terms of specific points that might be brought up, so that we don't get caught flat-footed, with specifics and haven't been prepared for those specifics and can't adjust the specifics.
Well, I guess we'll be directing the conversation. So
what I meant, though, what I'm trying to get at is that experts or people who deal with specificity in these areas have a wide background and or they come prepared to discuss points or specific points or pointers.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that it's a fair comment that Mr. Brackett is making. I would only append the observation that this came about outside, within the context of a conversation that I had yesterday at a meeting of the commission. I asked Mr. Sylvester, and he readily agreed. My motive for doing that
is he a part of the Constitutional Reform Committee?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
My reason for making that request, in coordination with the chairman, of course, is that we have these arguments that come up on a number of occasions in relation to the Constitution. One of them is whether or not the Constitution, as is worded, does accommodate people from the diaspora who living in the diaspora to run. The other aspect, for example, was the issue of Guatemalans ending up with Belizean citizenship. I can recall that we said, well, it's a ministerial discretion, and then there were opinions to the contrary. So I would say, yes, I agree with Mr. Brackett, but in between now and when we could get Mr. Sylvester on the show, I would want to advise, gentlemen, that we submit to the chairman those issues or questions that we have, so that we can in turn prep Mr. Sylvester or whoever we could get to come on board. You see,
I was thinking that since the Constitution is not a very big document, that we, members of the panel, could break it down, maybe take one section every week as we meet. Maybe they start with the preamble, we read out the preamble and see what we think would or could be changed in that, what should be changed in that. I am dismayed at this point, learning that the decision has been made to change the Constitution. I was not thinking along that line at all. My idea of that was that they were going out and asking the people. And I think the first show, that is what you might have presented to us, George, to ask the people what they think they want changed in there, if anything, and let us look at that from what it stands. But apparently now I would have to maybe agree with Mr. Brackett that there might indeed be some agenda here, and that there's something they have. And somebody was suggesting maybe it's they want to slip in the thing to prevent Shine from becoming. Remember, they had proposed that in one amendment, and it did not fly. And that maybe that they want to slip in there. I
don't think Shine is their worst problem.
It's not right now anyway. Yeah. But what concerns me is that maybe they will then go to the diaspora part, allow the diasporans to run in order that they can get the diaspora to agree with all the other changes that they plan to make. It would seem like a small sacrifice to make to accomplish what they really are out to accomplish. I hope they're not thinking about. Go ahead, sir.
No, I was going to say, I don't think the diaspora would be so
gullible.
Lackluster to agree with what the government is doing. They always seem to have a little bit more independency, and it doesn't matter.
Thing, you know.
It doesn't.
Yeah, go ahead.
It doesn't matter whether they're PUP leaning or UDP leaning. I always notice that there is a streak of independence just from the knowledge and experience they have acquired over the years or over the time being living in a foreign country.
Mr. Chair, I don't want to mislead anybody. I believe that going by the utterances that I had an earlier intervention where I gave the impression that it was some minor changes that would happen with the Constitution. Some amendments, not necessarily minor, but that would result in amendments to the Constitution. I don't recall, but if I did, I would have to apologize and say that sorry for misleading you. But having said that, I want to say that the remit that the committee has, and I run the risk of being repetitive here, is that the political leadership is basically asking the commission to embark on a process called the People's Constitutional Reform. And that in and of itself would not infer, and it would not indicate overtly that there's any government agenda to do anything. If you look at the act itself, the act is basically saying, let us go to the people and let us census what it is that the people want in their constitution. If the people doesn't want to change anything, that is what the constitution.
How much money are they spending on this effort, Mr.
I don't know that determination has been made. What I can say is that there's a secretariat for the commission, and that secretariat has some funding.
What I'm getting at, it's in the tunes of tens of millions of dollars.
No, I can't say that.
I'm sure. These things don't come cheap. They don't come cheap. And what I'm about to say is that nobody spends $5 million, $10 million without programming a result. Government don't do that, and so we have to recognize that the effort of the money they are spending, the effort of gathering people together, the effort of trying to present a commission that is making decisions is all in the intent of bringing about a desired result that the government has programmed.
But Mr. Morrison, you seem to be arriving at a conclusion without a premise. Because
I think Mr. Leonard made the premise in our very first conversation.
But that doesn't make it valid.
It doesn't make it valid, but it makes it something for us to look forward and head off.
Well, it might be something that we could examine in the context of perhaps some discussion and discourse. But what I want to say is that in relation to the resources that are being dedicated here, we are going into budget year 2023-2024, and submissions will be made. And you know what those are? Those are public records.
Mm-hmm.
So that the public and members of this panel would be able to track what it is that the government of Belize intend to spend on this effort to reform the constitution.
You know, I hope they're not putting it in the Gazette, because nobody reads that either.
Well, you know, that's the official government organ for.
Yeah, I am wondering, is there a possibility that there's outside influence in this, and maybe some foreign country might be funding?
Of course, Guatemala, United States, and Great Britain, and probably Canada and the EU. They're all going to dump money onto this.
But what is the basis of your
experience, past experience, historical information of how we get these things?
What do they have to gain from it? What do they have to gain from this?
I want to ask Mr. Morrison. There has been previous efforts made to reform the Belize Constitution, but unless Mr. Morrison,
there have been amendments.
Mr. Morrison, no, but I'm asking you a specific question, Mr. Morrison.
Okay, sir.
Do you have any evidence that there were these stakeholders, these ex-parte stakeholders that had inputted into that process?
Well, not specifically the Constitution. Not specifically the Constitution, but in laws in Belize, we saw that the EU had persuaded our government at the day to change its the way it dealt with criminals and murder cases and to stop capital punishment. We've seen that the United States has in the past kind of worked with with government to try to ease up and bring refugees and Guatemalan and Nicaraguan and Honduranians into the country, and to be that kind of sponge to deal with some of the. I mean, all these people think Belize is grossly underpopulated, and we have 8,867 square miles, and we could put 3 million people that would be heading to the United States. So they're going to fund anything that kind of breaks away us and takes things away from us that the structure of how we are to make it easy for them to make these type of measures easy, whether it's be by the government, people, or directed by the United States or other countries.
But these are overgeneralization, Mr. Morrison.
Well, I think we have less than a year to kind of see it through.
I don't know that you can make a valid argument by saying that because there's some geopolitics involved in scenario A, then it also abides in scenario B, C, D, and E. I can tell you, for example, we just passed the Fisheries Act after 15 years in utero. We have been making the Fisheries Act, and the Fisheries Act has implications for citizenship. It has implications for permanent residency, and I can tell you that, as far as I know, there has been no foreign money injected into the Fisheries Act, which is national. And I can tell you
that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. Who fund the net removing those what I can't remember what you call those.
Yeah, the gillnets.
Who funded
that was funded by the government?
They're all tied into fisheries.
No, by Oceana. Oceana
gets their money from somewhere. They're not making money.
Those were funded by the government of Belize and
No.
So they were not funded by the NGO community. They were funded by who, sir?
No. Oceana does not get funding from the government.
No,
but I never said that.
They get funding from.
I never said.
Why do
Mr.
you think
Chairman,
Matura had to resign?
Mr. Chairman, they are not. I didn't say that the NGOs get money from government.
Right.
I said it's a joint venture where the government of Belize funded and the NGO community.
The NGO
there
get
are
their
some
money
local
from
NGOs,
American.
and there are some international NGOs.
Yes, they get their money from. They get their money from the places I named.
Yes,
EU, Canada, United States, and Germany.
No, but are you imputing that because an NGO might have links with the not links? If an NGO
not links, funding.
Not just an NGO, a specific NGO.
Are you saying that NGO is necessarily linked to the government of the United States? Is that what you're saying? Is that
not all things doesn't have to always link back to the government to make it have the influence of the government and policies of the United States,
Special interest.
All right. So how does the funding of the gillnets have anything to do with the government of the United States that was assisted by NGOs that are part of the United States?
I was just saying that
really.
Yeah, I was not. You're getting to specificity. I was not. Yes. I'm saying in general, these NGOs get funding from these foreign sources, and they're taking their orders at some point from these foreign sources. And at times, you'll see money comes through to these NGOs that are money that are specifically programmed to do certain things that are part of the United States international foreign policy agenda and strategic goals for countries.
But and I go back to the point that I made that yes, you're not wrong, but not in every case, and certainly not in the case of the Fisheries Act. And there are any number of laws in Belize that would not have been influenced by the United States or Great Britain or the EU. So it's not that what you're saying is invalid, but I think that there are times when you need to be specific.
Okay, I agree with you. Some of it is just conjecture, knowing how government work, knowing how these organizations work, and know how the influence of money affect decisions in countries like Belize.
Well, I can tell you that, for example, in relation to the geopolitics of Belize, in relation to the geopolitics that affects Belize, when you look at the referendum, the ICJ referendum, it was no secret that both the United States government and the government of Great Britain basically contributed funds for quote unquote an education campaign.
And the EU.
So you know, what you're saying is, you know, does have context, but as I said, it's not an across the board issue in as far as foreign governments go.
Oh, I think we put our head in the sand when we think it's not. You know, we saw the Prime Minister ring the bell on Wall Street, and then we see Mr. Khan shows up as the gift.
I think that Mr. Brackett is disagreeing with you in relation to the connection between the ringing of the bell on Wall Street and this quote unquote terrorist that showed up a couple days later.
Yeah.
I don't know that Mr. Brackett would agree with you on that one. I think you use the word conjecture, Mr. Morrison, and there's no evidence of what you're saying to link. I think it's Mr. Khan to the Prime Minister's ringing of the bell on Wall Street.
Purely.
I'm just talking. I'm just saying that favor for a favor. I don't know if that one had anything specific to do with it. America has been doing a lot of favors for Belize. They have been pressing us and giving us good press for tourism and stuff. Don't you think there's a cost to our kindness in return for them? A little country like Belize, you have to pay a big country back somehow.
Just coincidence, no, George. Coincidence.
No, I don't disagree with Mr. Morrison. I am just being the agent's advocate. I want him to talk in specific terms where it is relevant.
Okay.
You know, I'm not disagreeing with him. You know, I'm just asking him to.
Yeah, no, I understand, and there's no point of disagreement because, as I said, I'm just putting it together from how I see it. I'm speaking from my perspective, from what I understand of a little of politics, from what I understand of international affairs, and how government works. And yeah, I don't have the specifics to say that Mr. Khan was discussed, and then they said go ring the bell as a thank you. But I'm just saying these things have a way of working out and showing themselves, and then in time we get to understand a little bit more about it. That's the truth. Time reveals a lot.
What I need to say before we leave the issue of the constitution and the process to reform is that obviously the commission will not have the final say.
Of course not. The commission will do its work and then disband.
This will lead to the work of the commission will be handed to the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
I just want to make that point. Now that there's a political process that kicks in after the commission has done.
If it was the commission, I'd have more faith that things would go the way it should go. But I knew all along it will not be the commission. The commission is just going to be there to give a face of cooperation and a face of engagement and involvement by the people. But that's not going to be the decision.
I can't agree with you on that one. I think that the commission.
I agree. I know. You being part of that body, I would expect that comment.
Now, whether or not the government embraces the findings of the commission, which should be the will of the people, is another thing that I am not qualified to answer, and neither am I disposed to answering.
Let me borrow a line from you, George. I certainly have my opinion of how good you are at what you are doing. has gone up a lot. I mean, yeah, you're good at it, boy. But and it makes me nervous though, because I don't get you. I don't see an objective viewpoint as it pertains to this constitution revision at all. I see you basically, and they did good in not muzzling you, because you're good at what you're doing. My opinion has gone high as far as how you can handle yourself and that. But what can I say? We're ready for move on to something else, because
Where's Mr. Brackett? Mr. Brackett hasn't said anything for 10 minutes. What's up?
he's getting me nervous.
No, Mr. Brackett has seen the light.
Mr. Brackett.
I just turned on back my mic.
Oh, okay. Good. I missed you for 10 minutes, man.
Yeah. There were some salient points that all three of you brought up. You know, I mean, the truth be told, but at the end of the day, the eyes will have it, which is my concern and my actual.
Yes.
You know, I mean,
yes,
that's the peeve that that I carry on my shoulder. You know.
Yeah.
I know for a certainty how these things work and how they are supposed to work. And long before this commission was set in process, I knew where the Prime Minister wanted to go, and I tried to sound the alarm bell to people within his party and in the UDP hierarchy about it. I was laughed out the clouds. So I just sat back and watched it work. And when he decided to publicize his information to the general public, I jumped on it again. Just in order for people to remember that I seem to have been making an ass out of a fool out of myself by trying to. I was accused by one particular person, as a matter of fact, that not only do I read minds, but in fact, let me not go into that, because the bottom line is, I personally have a responsibility because of a mantle that I bear, and that mantle I will carry with me until my grave, before somebody else is able to take it over and move on with it. Because this struggle did not start with me. It did not start with Mr. Goosen. It did not start with any other people prior to Mr. Goosen. It started hundreds of years ago. And it's just,
Can you define the struggle
of the process?
Can you define the struggle? Can you tell us what that struggle specifically
the
is?
Struggle to retain Belize as our patrimony.
The integrity of our country.
The territorial integrity of our country.
Yeah. Started with the Baymen.
Are you saying now that this is a part of a scheme to sell out Belize once again? Is this coming back up as being the reason for this?
Mr. Chairman, can I hold off on your question, the specific question, and just adjust something else, sir, if you don't mind, if you allow me to? I'd appreciate it if you would.
Yeah, I'm sure you go ahead. You will anyway. Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't, sir. I wouldn't if I'm not allowed to. Anyhow, but back to the point. Somehow, during the Webster proposal, Mr. Golson got tagged as being somebody who was unreliable and could not keep secrecy acts on information that was privy to people who were the only ones that's supposed to have known what was going on and dealt with those matters until it was resolved. He happened to have put his mouth in somebody else's business, I would say in the country's business, at the appropriate time to inform the public and the country that we are in a dire situation and we need to save ourselves because nobody else was going to be able to save us. He had died and gone, and somehow, well, before that, Mr. Lindo, I think I mentioned to this panel in a previous conversation that Mr. Lindo was supposed to have been the person that they would have used, and I'm referring to the day, and I'll clarify that afterwards if anybody is interested. But they were trying to use Mr. Lindo to discipline Mr. Golson, basically to get him kicked out of the political hierarchy of our country for having betrayed what was attempted to be done to our country. Because America, Mr. Webster, Britain, Guatemala, and other agencies were hell-bent in dispossessing the Belizean people of that piece of land. And because Mr. Golson told the people what was happening, and the people riled up and was favorable to him, having given us the opportunity to save ourselves from the situation, they just had to target the man. They even called the man a communist.
Mr. Brackett, at some point, don't you think we need to have an honest discussion about the Webster proposal, sir? And in fact,
overdue, sir.
It was just that, a proposal, and it was
not only just the Webster proposal, but I agree with you, and we should be discussing all these things at different times. People need to learn and know this background, or future generation will not be able to hold fast to this territory if they don't have the fortitude.
But you're not going to say, you're not agreeing with me, because I think what I'm saying is that the Webster proposals were just that, proposals released prematurely before any action was taken. And you might say that might have been prevented the action, but you can't prove that negative there.
There were two Webster proposals, Mr. Chairman.
I think one of the
Which one are you referring to, sir?
I think one of
the 13 or the 17?
I think one of the points of the Webster proposal, though, is that even though it was a proposal and was never implemented, the agenda remains on the table for those agencies. Those people that are advocating it.
The agenda has always been there, in particular by Guatemala. We know Guatemala has made no secret of what they want.
Mr. Chairman, Guatemala did not write.
Mr. Price never intended to sign
the heads of agreement. Guatemala had nothing to do with getting the heads of agreement into our hands.
Of course, they were part of it. The whole thing was about.
Guatemala had nothing to do with the heads of agreement.
It was the British and the American, right?
The British, the American, and we the Belizean. We the Belizean. Mr. Price sent Mr. Schuman to go and represent for the country, and then Mr. Schuman pulled that thing together, bring it to Mr. Price. After having signed off on it, Mr. Price said he read the thing 3 times and didn't understand it. The heads of agreement, which was something subsequent to the Webster proposal. I'm just trying to point out to you, Mr. Chairman, that it's not just the Webster proposal.
You're running ahead of yourself. Mr. Schuman signed off on it, you're saying?
He was our ambassador and the potential, sir. Yes, he represented the Belize.
Yes, you said
in all those negotiations, as he's doing also with the
hold on, but let's not stray. You said that Mr. Schuman signed off on it.
And Mr. Price said he couldn't understand it, and he read it 3 times.
Well, hold up, man. You go apart. That's not what we're talking about. You made a statement that Mr. Schuman signed off on it. Can you explain that, sir? What did he sign off on?
The heads of agreement that he brought and gave to Mr. Price, sir. That the other people, that the British and the Americans and the other people that were involved in the negotiation. Oh man, okay. Oh, sorry.
I think it's basically that the British and American have made a proposal, and here we should take a look at it and move on. So I think he's signing off.
No, it's a little bit more than that, though, Mr. Morrison, and that is the point that I'm trying to bring to the attention. I thought maybe the panels, people on the panels were probably aware of those points that I was trying to say, and I'm
Mr. Brackett.
Yes, sir. Where is it, sir? Sorry.
Would I be in error to propose that Mr. Schuman was acting outside of the will of the government of the day? Was he acting outside of the...
He was delegated on their behalf as their ambassador to this
George Price?
I think when the heat came on...
I'm asking that question because there would be people who have
deniable accountability, right?
On this.
That was the role.
But I wanted Mr. Brackett's, because it sounds to me that you're suggesting that Mr. Schuman had the opportunity and the authority to act outside of the knowledge base of Mr. Price. Is that what you're suggesting?
Sir, is that not what I said? Mr. Price said himself in his own words.
What?
He read what Mr. Schuman brought back to him,
Right.
which is what was already agreed to. At that point,
Agreed
it was
to by
already
who? Agreed to by who?
What,
Not by Mr. Price.
by Canada, by
Yes,
US
but
and Russia and
It's obvious that some people on the panel right now don't understand how these things operate and how they work, and therefore that
it operates just like the commission review will operate, where it has to go for political approval. That would have had to gone to Mr. Price to sign. Only Mr. Price could have signed that off. Schuman could not have signed that off.
Sir,
right.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you, sir?
The heads of agreement.
Now let's go to that.
We are currently living through those things, sir.
In what way?
If I must go a little further step.
In what way? In what way?
When you delegate or when you have a plenipotentiary ambassador on your behalf, sir, that person is speaking as if you were speaking. That person is acting as if you were acting. That person has the ultimate authority vested in him, as if they were talking to you or me. Whenever I or you have a plenipotentiary person dealing with our affairs, it's like a lawyer. Then let's say, for example, whenever I goes to court on our behalf, me and you not get up there and get a chance to say nothing.
May I ask you a question?
For a specific purpose. The lawyer is the one that addresses the court.
May I ask you a question? May you ask you, did you say that Mr. Schuman brought it to Mr. Price? He read it and said he read it 3 times and did not agree with it? Did you say that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that means then that Mr. Schuman had no authority to sign off on it.
No. You're jumping out of order.
No, I don't think it means
you're restating the facts that we are discussing things that are factual, things that are historical facts. We're not discussing something or we're not proposing something.
I don't think it necessarily means that, Mr. Chairman. I think it meant that because of the political heat, the Prime Minister at that time, or Premier at that time, just backed off from it because he realized that it was not going to be swallowed by the people. So rather than get embroiled in it, he just said, "Oh, I don't understand what they're talking about."
Well, that's exactly it, Mr. Morris. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't want to ask Mr. Brackett if he was in Belize at the time, because I don't want it to sound, like I'm facetious. But I will say to you that I was a young teacher at Belize Technical College, and I can tell you that there was a hue and cry in Belize City. It ended up in a major demonstration. And it was all strata of society, including the civil service, the public service, was much up in arms. The UDPs at the time were unprepared for this. And it's the backlash. This came out of negotiations, And so when people are now saying that, I'm just on proposal, it's more than a proposal. It was really the policy of the government of Belize to have gone with it. Yes. And it is only because the people rebel en masse. Yep. Somebody said that Mr. Price said that, why I read it 3 times. Well, actually, Mr. Price is doing himself a disservice because the average person will read it one time and realize what it is saying. But I don't know if anybody has any proof that Mr. Price actually read it 3 times and didn't understand it.
But I don't know.
You not take the man at the one word then.
I don't know if anybody has any proof.
Have we become so cynical now that we can't take nobody at their one word?
I don't know.
Well, I'm not cynical, but I would be one of the last ones. I would be one of the last ones to take anything from a politician as being gospel.
I don't know.
I don't think Mr. Price is a fool.
I don't know if anybody has any proof that Mr. Price had any intentions of signing that. And you're saying he backed up because of pressure, but we know what Mr. Price has always said: not a square inch, not a centimeter, nothing. He was not willing to concede any territory to anybody.
But let's back up a little bit, because if you look at the Webster proposal, it said that the Prime Minister, because it was Goldson that came out and spoke about that, he had said that George Price had agreed with it. And I don't know if he did, right?
Well, it wouldn't be the first time a politician lied, was it?
Yeah. But the entire premise of everything was that the prime minister of the day was about to make Belize what they call the 23rd district of Guatemala.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison.
You cannot go by what
Mr.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, could you please do yourself a favor and read the heads of agreement for yourself?
Why? It was never.
So you can be. So we can.
It was not signed.
So you don't have to hear me tell you.
Why?
So you wouldn't have to hear me or Mr. Morrison or anybody else try and tell you what you would know for yourself then. That's all I'm saying.
It matters not what is in there. The point.
No, I think it does. I think it's
signed.
No. I think it does. I think it does.
Why?
From the point.
Why?
Because the premise of that document is what is being implemented in Belize in slow measures. They're walking it slowly.
We're living through that stuff today as we're talking now on this show.
They are doing it. The nationalization of all these Latin country citizens is part of what that document and the heads of agreement and the Webster proposal was all about to implement in Belize.
Mr. Morrison, the heads of agreement is just a warmed over version of version 1 and version 2 of
That's correct. That's correct. It's a more palatable, softer version.
Somebody
saying that the Guatemalans would have unimpeded access to the highways and byways and resources of the seabed. That means mineral
and
resources.
We will consult with them for all our foreign policy.
And it means any resources that are of value in the sea.
And that is happening now.
That Guatemala shall have the right to establish an oil pipeline in Belize. Read it.
And is that happening now?
It's slow.
Is that what you're saying?
It's happening, sir.
It is happening?
It's more than happening. What is happening now? What is happening now? What is happening now is there's a road from Halacte into Belize, and we must understand that is of no strategic interest to put a road there.
But you guys are alarmists.
For Belize, it's of strategic
interest. How do you mean it's no strategic? It's so that Guatemalan military could march through. What do you mean no strategic?
No, it's no strategic interest for Belize.
No strategic interest for Belize.
Yes, but when you look at the geopolitics of it,
they're
getting their cart road. They're getting their cart road.
That's exactly what it is, Mr.
Well, they got more than a cart road now. They got super highway from Guatemala City to Benque to Melchor.
Taiwan helped pay for it.
And we have a 3-lane. We have a 2-lane highway.
But
not a cart road. Not a dirt road.
Was that not in the 1859 treaty?
And the purpose, yes, sir. And the purpose for putting that cart road thing in there under Article 7 was the last minute to ensure that in there.
Hold on.
The objective was so that Mr. Anaya could have gone back to Guatemala and tell his government that he got something out of the negotiation to serve his government purpose to flood Belize. Because I said I wanted the cart road for commerce.
Hold up. Unlike the heads of agreement or the Webster proposals, the 1859 treaty was signed. And was, but a part of that is the
Guatemalans are claiming they did not sign it, sir, or did not agree with it.
Nobody don't interrupt you when you talk, man. So no, if unlike the heads of agreement and the Webster proposal, that 1859 treaty that included the cart road that they're now getting, can we not now say, since you say they're getting the cart road, say that, listen, Guatemala, the treaty is fulfilled now, you can no longer mess with Belize.
because
that was a hoax. That was a hoax from the get-going, which is what I was trying to explain to you guys. On the program. The whole thing about the cart road was a hoax, and for all intents and purposes, with the modern highway that we got, which is much better than a cart road, they're still taking us to the ICJ for half of the country. Guatemala wasn't stupid to give us half of the country for a cart road that they want the British help them build.
Guatemala not give we nothing. Guatemala will give us nothing.
That are the thing we got with the ICJ right now.
What? The claim. A claim. Guatemala don't give me none. Don't mean anything. No, I know
right.
what you're saying, sir. What you're saying is ridiculous.
Mr. Chairman.
I know it's ridiculous because you don't get the point.
Are you aware, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
that the heads of agreement came out of negotiations between the British, the Guatemalans, and Belize? Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am aware. There were negotiations, but nothing.
And it was very palatable. It was palatable to the Guatemalans.
Was anything signed? How can you be arguing a hypothetical situation like that?
No. Wait, man. It was palatable to the Guatemalans. It's only the Belizeans that rebelled against it.
How do
if
you
the
know
Belizeans
that?
did not rebel against it, it would have been signed into law.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Because I was here.
And you were there where? You see Mr. Price with a pen ready to sign it? Is that what you're saying? Where were you then? Where were you exactly? Where were you exactly?
He needed to have taken it to Parliament.
Right.
But he realized that there was an outfall. He realized that there was an outfall from the public, and he dared not take that step.
Would you not at least concede then that he listened to the people, if that was the case?
He did not listen to the people. He was upended. His ambitions were upended by the people.
So he didn't listen to the people.
He didn't listen to the people.
But as the Prime Minister, couldn't he have signed it anyway? Couldn't he have signed it anyway?
No.
Are you aware, Mr. Chairman?
Election was coming.
Are you aware, sir, that Mr. Price, many years after he did something on behalf of the country, acknowledged that he did, and there's nothing that the country could do about it after so many years had passed?
And did he do it?
Mr. Chairman,
he said he did it, and it was actually done. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
I am here arguing with 3 derelict NIPs.
all right. You see, you get political now. You get political now. You're not stick to the facts.
You are getting political, Mr.
You are
Chairman.
nothing but political.
How can you?
All right.
How can you label, Mr. Chairman? How can you label the Secretary General of the Belize Progressive Party as an NIP?
You were then. You're not now.
No, Mr. Chairman.
No. Were you ever a PUP? Were you ever a PUP? Were you ever a PUP? I'd like to ask, were you ever a Belizean first and then NIP second?
What? I'm a Belizean, I'm a born Belizean, I'm a Guatemalan.
Oh, man.
Mr. Chairman, you have accused me of being a purported slave plantation owner if I was alive 20 years ago. You have accused me of a lot of things without any substance.
I have never been called a derelict NIP before, but
are you aware that we went into independence under a state of emergency, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
You're aware of that?
Yes.
You're also aware that
false rumor.
You're also aware that Mr. Price could not sign into law the heads of agreement because of that. Are you aware of that?
Are you saying that is the reason he didn't?
He couldn't.
And can you prove that? No. But no.
Yes, I can
prove
prove it. It's not signed.
It's not correct.
It's not signed.
All right. So that the bottom line, the fact that it's not signed means that you're arguing a moot point.
Can I also say? No, I'm not. Do you also realize that Mr. Courtney was a part of the delegation? Are you also aware, Mr. Chairman, that there was also a counter demonstration organized by the PUPs in Belize City? Do you know that?
Well, you have politics. What do you expect? What do you expect?
Well, that's exactly what I am saying.
That is no way. That has nothing to your argument, man. That has nothing to your argument. It does not.
It was the will of the PUPs to sign this into law.
The bottom line that it was never signed into law, right?
We agree on that.
Signed into law.
We agree on that.
Why it wasn't signed into law? We are disagreeing on why it wasn't. You are saying that Mr. Price had all, and you actually telling me you see the man with the pen to get ready for signing.
I did not say
Mr. Chairman, the man never said that.
Again, close.
Don't exaggerate. We're there on the public airwaves or no?
You are very skilled at misrepresenting what it is that I am saying.
Boy, you
I
very
have
skilled at
said,
recognizing
Mr.
what.
Chairman.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You're
I
good
am
at
saying to
that.
you that neither of those documents were ever signed or considered to be signed by
No, I
Mr.
don't think-
Price.
I don't know
I
if
really
he
don't think so.
considered. I don't know if considered. I believe that when he sent his ambassador there,
He
his
had to.
ambassador was always when you're an
He had to.
ambassador.
There was every effort to try to resolve this matter.
Of course.
He wasn't willing to concede any land. Did he not say that? Do you think he was lying when he said that? That I am not willing to cede any territory, to not even a square inch. Do you remember him saying that?
Mr. Chairman.
Saying that. I remember him saying
Mr.
that.
Chairman,
But I don't.
and CY and the members of the panel, I would like to make a proposal that one of these days we set aside a specific session of our discussion
to beat this dead horse. To beat these dead horses.
Not to beat no dead horse, to enlighten, to put things in context.
Try to stir our next demonstration that's unnecessary.
I'll leave it alone.
You know, I want to talk about the convention they just had with Mr.
Saldívar. All right.
But why is Mr. Chair so defensive when it comes to this issue?
Because you guys have been doing wrong for all these years. You have done wrong by the country. You have come up with some propaganda that is not true.
Hey, it's because you're a derelict NIP, okay?
Thank you. All right. Keep on it. John Saldívar.
But I wanted to talk about another derelict UDP.
Let's talk about the
It's too much fun.
blatant. Let's talk about the blatant vote buying. Because I think that the biggest thing that came out of there for me, this so-called Bacon House.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
And I wonder if Belizeans even care.
Are you just waking up from a slumber?
I'll tell you that there's some legitimate, well, maybe not for Belmopan, because normally people would say, oh, we had to bring all these people from the district and we have to feed them and we have to get them money back to take the bus to get back to their areas. So a lot of that and has some
that's Belizean politics.
And and I was going to say
for the last 50 years from 1960.
Have some valid effect on how things work. So
there's not an election held in Belize from 1960 till today yet.
Yeah, but
that hasn't had that involved.
People really for $50 or a blue note make that difference. You know.
You really don't think so?
Mr. Brackett, my question to you on the panel is, my impression is that vote buying is a fairly recent development. I can't recall that back in the 70s and in the 80s people were buying votes. I really don't recall that.
Mr. Mabit, I just said that has been happening from the 60s, sir.
Oh, okay.
The history of the Gio.
Okay.
From my own living eyes. I know to tell you something where I hear from somebody.
Votes? People are buying votes?
From way back in the 60s.
Some people have always been
1964. I'll tell you. 1964 election was not only bought, but it was actually stolen. How about that for something new?
What does that mean?
What does that mean? Before the chairman beat me up.
No, tell me what that means.
I'll take that statement before the chairman beat me up.
No.
Otherwise, we have to allocate time for it.
You need to qualify. You need to qualify your assertion and your assumption.
Okay. I'll give a lead. Go ask Mr. Silva.
You're the one who claims to know.
He's still alive.
We're asking you.
Mr. Silva is still alive.
No, we're asking
Mr.
you.
Silva.
Who was stolen?
Just tell me why you say
Who was it stolen?
Just answer
Who
the
was
question.
disenfranchised?
What I said.
Just give me a quick example.
No. I'm asking you a question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mabit, question.
The question that I have, Mr. Brackett, is somebody would have been disenfranchised. Somebody was set upon by this process. And my simple question to you was, who was it? Was it somebody at the level of the candidacy, or is it just an ordinary voter? Who was it? That was
your point of reference is in regards to what time or what issue. I mean the issue is clear. What time and what particular occasion you're referring to?
Who was stolen? You said the election was stolen. I'm
You
trying
was stolen.
Oh, no. Wait. Let's not go into that.
You made 2 points.
Let's not get into that. I'm not entertaining any further discussion on that point.
Oh,
Not today.
The election was stolen.
No, sir. No, sir.
You can't just drop anything and run.
No, I dropped that to let you guys know that not only were elections being
we don't know
that people were passing money back and forward, but bigger things than that was happening. That's all I was.
You can't just say that and not tell us something.
But yes, what is?
I've given her a clue already. I've given her a clue already.
What is there to support your argument, though?
Mr. Silva could tell her the whole details.
Mr. Silva,
No, because you see, Mr. Silva is a PUP, and he's a person of credibility in the PUP hierarchy for as long as he has been around. So when Mr. Silva tell her why to say,
so you're not
then
the
chairman, no, I have no reason to object to my saying it. Because I know I have the need to say it again.
You're not a person of integrity then.
You are speculating, Mr. Brackett, until and unless.
See, Mr. Chairman, you see why I have to always go, you see why I always have to attempt to discipline you? Because of those kind of statements, sir. You always try to come at me and tell me about integrity and about I did this, and I always try to advise you not to go there, and you still keep going there. Every time you go there, there's a controversy.
You blow too much smoke up your own bumper. Listen to me. You said Mr. Silva is a person of integrity. You can
exactly,
go ask
sir.
him, which means to me that
he knows as much as I know, and maybe a little bit more. That's all I'm saying to you.
We can't ask you because
you want to tell him I leave it. I keep telling you I leave it, and I keep telling you another leave it, and I keep telling you another leave it. But because I not give you because I not go and give you the whole book in a one nutshell.
Mr. Brackett, if you tell me that 1960,
anything that I tell anybody right now on this show,
tell me they
only be cause for further questions.
No,
and then more questions, and then more questions. Because it's never going to end.
Sir.
Yeah. If you tell me 1964 election was stolen, and if you tell me 1964 election was bought, then I want some evidence of it. And don't send me to Mr. Silva. Don't engage somebody that doesn't even have anything. I don't know if he knows our program.
No. I know that he knows enough to be able to tell you what I'm telling you. And since I know that he has a better credibility with Mr. Chairman, is the reason why I made the statement, sir.
Okay? You should tell us, Silva. But Mr. Chairman is not only on the panelists here. There's myself and Mr. Gregory, and we also have an audience for the show. So we're asking.
Anyhow, back to the Bacon House thing. The current events. As far as I'm trying to point out to you, what some people wake up yesterday and realize that people they get money and then they get food and then they get ham and then they get whatever else other stuff and so on if they vote. The people might just wake up yesterday, not yesterday, I mean Sunday, when the thing happened, and realize that that's been happening in Belize. It's just unfortunate that it took all these many decades after for people to just come at that realization that, oh, Mr. Saldivar did that. Which Mr. Saldivar himself denied that he did that. And Mr. Jules asked the other gentleman then when he was interviewing, and everybody denied that they were doing it.
Right. You expect
somebody did it.
You expect that
PUP does it all the time. Yes, UDP does it all the time. And I used to do it all the time. A lot of people have always been doing that. And it's unfortunate that people are just waking up to believing, oh no, they want to believe that is happening because they want to impugn Mr. Saldivar with it. That's all.
He's not going to let it.
It's all illegal. It is all illegal.
Houses back in the 60s? Were there any bacon houses back in the 60s and 70s?
Sir, why do they call it a bacon house?
Oh, yeah, that is.
We need to understand the definition and the purpose for the statement and the context of the statement in order to understand the reality. Okay?
You know what the context of it is? The context of it is a quid pro quo.
Exactly. Exactly. Because it's not just only bacon that is being given out. And when they refer to bacon, then they talk about the hams and they talk about the money and other things. They're not just about no bacon. Bacon is just a euphemism.
Wow.
Okay?
We know that.
Boy,
we know that.
Wow.
I'm asking you, were there bacon houses in the 60s and the 70s? That's all I'm asking you. Were there bacon houses, sir?
See, you're not supposed to ask him any questions. Just believe everything
it's
he
not
said.
That
And
It's not
that's
that
why
he's not asking. It's not that he's asking a question.
Mr. Brackett, I am glad that you have not
If you
said,
guys are hearing what I'm saying and
not saying
processing what I'm
anything.
saying,
We hear
you
not
understand
saying
that the question
anything.
is a relevant question.
do you
No,
know this
Because
saying
I'm
anything.
speaking directly to those questions that are being asked.
So,
Do
All the
you
questions
notice-
being asked when I'm speaking to those.
Do you
so
Fuck.
Mr.
notice
Brackett,
every time somebody tries to speak, he speaks
if you
so that you
are
don't hear what
if
he's
you
saying?
are making a
Mr.
proposal
Chairman, stop the
and
nonsense, man.
if somebody asks you to qualify, I am happy that you are not saying that the earth is flat, you know. Because if you say the earth flat and we ask you to prove it, when you say, what's Mr. Silva?
Yes. I'll send you to Mr. Silva, yes. I'll send you a part, your credibility
And that
is more adjusted and
that is how
acceptable.
ridiculous it could be.
But anyhow,
I have no
Mr.
the Bacon House thing,
Mr. Brackett.
the Bacon House thing is just a euphemism that was used and that gathers momentum because apparently a lot of Belizean people now realize that elections are being bought hanky-panky all the time.
You really think
And people are investing money into a campaign and giving people...
Mr. Brackett, for a moment.
Sorry.
You
Yes, sir.
really believe that Belizean people and that Jules revealed something that's unknown to the Belizean people? That's nonsense.
That's what it seems like?
No, everybody knows what goes on because they are the recipient of it. And I've seen politics up
I know that. You know that. Everybody's supposed to know that. It's my point.
I have seen politics.
Why flag the thing and pretend that, well, okay, only one person in the whole of the universe of Belizean politics is engaged in that process? That's my point. That's what I'm trying to get at.
But wait,
Right?
are you saying that because everybody else do it, it's right for him to do it?
No. You guys are wanting to flag Mr. Saliva with any and everything that will come up against the man.
Oh my
When you
God.
accuse the man of all kind of things,
No,
don't have no proof that he has done. Okay?
Mr. Brackett.
And the US is not willing to give us the proof for their allegations.
Mr. Brackett.
Yes, sir.
We
Go ahead.
saw one line of probably about 500 or 300 people in it. That's all I saw. I didn't see.
There's more than that.
Maybe the news people didn't do a good enough job to find out where the other lines and cues were, where the bacon was being given. But all I saw was one.
Okay. Different media house had different people out there on that day, interviewing different people and taking different pictures or reels, right, of different occurrences.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Brackett.
All I'm saying, give me a chance, Mr. Marvitt. All I'm saying,
Give you a chance.
it appears that based on what was being said by Mr. Jules, who is the one that actually used the term specifically about the Bacon houses, which was a provocative statement to start with, because Mr. Jules damn well know that, in fact, I was about to reveal that.
You always do that. You do that a lot.
No. Because I get to the point where I will say something that not everything
always
will need.
at that point and then stop.
Yes, because sometimes you got to hold yourself and realize that you don't have to say everything we're not good for say.
Not all the
Not
time.
everything will.
Not all the time.
Whatever.
You can't just throw a thing out and we're supposed to guess what you're saying or try to figure out what it is.
Well, throughout, I believe that at least you're here and you're supposed to think it through and figure out that maybe that just crap at the throat or maybe there's some merits to it.
So you're saying that sometimes
right? That's all.
You just throw crap sometimes.
That's your entitlement. Each individual have that as an entitlement as a human being.
I didn't think we were on this panel for that. I really didn't think so. And that kind of panel.
There you go again with your stupidness. There you go with another stupid concept.
You just
there you go, Mr. Chairman, with another stupid concept.
But what are you saying?
That is not what we are here for.
Mr. Brackett, are we being unreasonable to ask you to qualify the assertion?
The chairman is being unreasonable, which is why I'm telling him that he keep repeating, he keep going down the rabbit hole every time.
Oh, you use that term a lot, don't you? Do you know what it means? Do you know what that means, boy?
Well, Mr. Brackett,
Mr. Chairman, with the kill good here, time, sir. Why don't we discuss something more important or relevant?
I think we kind of missing our point though, because we get tied up in this minutia.
What I wanted out of the John Saldiva discussion, Mr. Chair, is that the buying a vote undermines democracy. But
yes.
there are
did you saw Mr. Saldiva buy any votes, sir?
laws in place
Did anybody saw Mr. Saldivar buy any vote?
There are actual laws.
There were other candidates out there. And none of those candidates acknowledged.
Why don't you let the man speak, Mr. Man?
Mr. Brackett, I did not say that Mr. Saldivar bought votes.
We associate the man name with buying of votes.
I did not say that Mr. Saldivar bought votes. I said that the buying of votes is against the law, and it is not in the best interest of democracy. And as we talk about political reform, and as we talk about UNCAC, these are things that needs to be fixed.
Do you agree with that, Mr. Brackett?
100%. I agree with you 100%, sir.
You and Mr. Morrison live in a country, the United States, that is much more advanced than Belize in relation to electoral reform. You have to declare where you get your money from. There are obviously agencies involved that can monitor and prosecute you. We are not there yet.
Mr. Maivit,
let me just say one thing.
On that point, you're not totally correct, sir. You're partially correct, because there's what you call black accounts. They use the name black. I mean, they use the word black to even qualify or categorize those accounts. And then a lot of political agents collect money on behalf of politicians, and they give them money to their people, aggregate the money and give it to them, or finance campaign for them, or finance.
What is the point? What is the point? Because how does that go against what Mr. Maivit is saying? How does that, what you're saying?
I was saying that
anyway, because
not everything that happens in America is also legit.
But what Mr. Maivit is saying, there are laws against it. And whether it happens or
in
not,
Belize, we have laws against it too. For we last say you're not supposed to buy no vote for nobody, or nobody's supposed to sell no vote.
Yeah.
We Constitution prohibits that.
Yeah, but I wanted to say something. Let me just say something. The actual term Bacon House is not a Belize derivative. It's an American derivative. It came from the southern part of the United States, where where the good old boys used to get whiskey and money and cigarette and all type of stuff for their vote. So it is not new in politics. It's an old custom to sort of.
Is it still operational, Mr. Morrison?
Pardon me?
Are the Bacon Houses in the South or wherever else in the United States still an active part of the politics of the United States?
You know, I'm sure that there are still things that goes on in some of those little local elections and stuff, sheriffs and county stuff and things that doesn't. I think the feds would be more at it if it was happening in the congressional areas. But I think from time to time, stuff surface of misdeeds where money change and people get money and they don't use it the way they should.
People who aggregate money for the politicians, then get ambassadorship.
But I be error, Mr. Morrison, to say that I think the United States is more circumspect and at a different level of maturity in terms of
the system in place for sure.
Yeah.
In terms of policing, wrongdoings when it comes to the electoral process. Would I be?
Yeah,
but nobody would.
Would I be in error to say that the United States is ahead of us?
Of course. No. Of course they are. Of course they are.
But nobody would be.
That's the point that I wanted to make.
Yeah. No, I understand. But there is some validity when Trump or anyone claims that they are fraud in American politics and election. Exactly. There is a degree. It is not a significant amount, but there's always that level of fraud in elections. There's always people voting that should not be voting, and there are people that should be voting are denied the opportunity to vote. So there's
nobody would be so naive as to believe, because human beings on a whole are corruptible. We have it, all of us. I mean, nobody is away from that, I don't think. Yes. So, but your point is well taken, Mr. Maivit, that they are ahead of us. The infrastructure in place is better able to catch it when it happens. Though they don't in all instances. There certainly are times when they get away with it, but they discourage it than we don't. We seem to encourage it.
We encourage it at the highest level.
At the highest level, and and the sycophants are always out there to defend it also. So I mean, that's the problem we have.
I just wanted to not leave the table without trying to establish that they are human systems and they're not perfect. But it doesn't mean that the practice that goes back, according to Mr. Brackett, to the 60s should be tolerated. I just want to make that point, that not because it has been happening mean that it should be something that continues in perpetuity. You know, that's the point that I want to make.
Yeah, and like the chairman said, humans are susceptible to corruption, and corruption will always be a part of whatever system we establish.
Right.
And the best we can do is try to minimize it.
That's correct. And when we find it, we hold those people accountable.
And though the only way we'll fix it is for those who, whether they're benefiting from it or are supportive of those who engage in it, condemn it also. It has to be condemned at every level. And as best as we can, try not to engage ourselves with it. And that's all I think we could best possibly do.
Well, keep in mind, we're talking about the electoral process, but Belize is not seen as one of those countries that is within the top ranks of being not corrupted. Belize is seen as one of those countries that has major corruption issues, and obviously it filters into the electoral process. So I want to make the point that having corruption in politics is not in isolation of the culture of Belize. And we need to fix this.
But we are corrupt across the board and from top to bottom, and that's so unfortunate.
I'll give one good example, and I know kind of the wind down. One of my colleagues, about 2 months ago, his father had died, and he needed to get a land transferred into his name. You know how that go. Old man left a will, and for him to do that, the government of Belize would have probably collected $50, but the guy on the inside wanted $1,500. It's not under the politicians.
Yeah.
And so at one point when Mr. Burrows spoke about the hotbed of corruption in relation to
Lands Department,
it's a real huge problem.
It's a reality. A reality
problem.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things the Prime Minister spoke about just recently at the sitting of the House was that they are going to be putting out, digitizing those, and it was his hope, but I'm not sure, but it was his hope that will remove some of the influences of individuals to make the process less corrupt. And I could see some of that happening if you could file for your land automatically, but then it comes down to a human decision maker anyway. So now we know who the corrupter is going to be, or the corrupted is going to be, and it's not just going to be the guy that takes your land paper and tell you he's going to talk to the boss for you. Because I've had that situation personally.
Yeah, IA might eventually bail us out.
Yeah. Pardon me?
IA might eventually bail us out.
Yeah.
When you get in artificial intelligence, no?
Yeah. AI.
I got it the wrong way there. AI might bail us out because then there's no reason to be corrupt.
Well, but see, it removes some of the little people, but in the end, still an individual is sitting there with that information, and they will make a decision. Are you getting a piece of land? Where are you getting a piece of land? Is it a desired piece of land? And so forth. So there's still a human element, but it removes some of the little small peddlers along the way. Everybody that's pinching off a little piece from you. But it doesn't remove it completely. So at least you will know that, hey, the guy that's looking at it at the end of the computer that's assigning me, and he's going to give me a fill piece of land, high up, or he's going to give me a piece of swamp, and do I need to give him an extra $3,000 to get the swap, to get the highland versus the swap.
Yeah. And it's not confined, of course, to immigration. It's across the board.
Oh,
And I remember the current prime minister, when he used it to justify what he did, but he was saying that many times you have to grease them. They make it more difficult in order that you have to grease their palm for them to work it out. Of course, he was defending his actions and calling the lady, the guy at the border, and make the lady bring across the flowers. No, so
I wonder who greased his palm.
You see, that was also wrong. So I think, but what it showed me is that he does know what is going on, and that in fact, even at the higher up, they understand that this is going on. Are they doing enough to fix the problem? That is the question. And
we know that this stuff happens at customs. We know it happens at tourist board. We know it happens at lands department. We know it happens at immigration. Wherever the money sink, we see it. Wherever we know it happens in the healthcare industry.
You know what might help?
Where government pharmaceutical ends up in private hospitals and things like that, or it's just a cycle of corruption.
What might help, though, Gregory, is an IRS type system in Belize. Have you ever seen how some of these custom officers live? The way when you talk about custom officers, man, they're obscenely rich, and you can. How can you get that on a salary that they get? Because they might make a good salary, but not that good. These guys but
no, it is a corrupt system when you say, give me $500 now to bring this vehicle in, or pay the government $3,000.
And you can't blame. Well, you could blame the person, because at the end of the day, if we really want to fix it, we have to make some sacrifices.
That's true.
They need not put it so high to start with, from the fact that they can lose that one. It doesn't have to be so. By putting it so high, I believe, is why they make it so tempting to the person who's engaging in it from the other side.
But you know that's not true in all respect. I remember once traveling to Belize, and the guy told me what I was bringing. I was bringing some computers, and he told me, "Oh, your amount is $700 to bring these things in. That's what I would owe the government." He said, "But if you give me $300, I'll come and collect it later on. I will lower your price to $100. So now, if I do that, I'm paying $400 versus $700. You know, right. So the system that they structure, because of the discretion these people have, and it when he's doing it, he's blinking at his supervisor who stands on the corner there.
And he gets half, huh?
And so everybody is going to get a little cut out of this thing. So the government.
Let me ask you, did you do it?
No, I did not.
You refused?
Yeah, I refused. But
Mr. Chair and gentlemen, this is not nuclear physics. There's a basic thing in management, and it's called monitoring and enforcement. And so when you have a functionary in a certain office, you have to have systems in place to monitor and essentially catch them, or else they will do what they do.
But you get in trouble.
I will tell you that in relation to no, well, you have to start at some place though, and we know where the fault lines lie. They're in immigration, they're at customs, and they're at lands.
Lands, correct.
Mexico, G-Mike and gentlemen, that Mexico had a very bad reputation in the 70s, leading up to the 70s. And I can't say Mexico, I don't know, but I'll tell you, when we went over the border to Chetumal, it was a known thing that mordida was what you did. Mm-hmm. But the Mexicans have, to a large extent, addressed that.
To an extent. I don't know how large an extent, because they're still doing it.
Well, I'm saying it's not where it was. It's not where it was back in the day. You understand? It's not where it was in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. Yeah. So people realize that corruption has a cost, and it's also related to development. I can give you a story with this present, I won't say this present administration, it was said that, well, a PUP government, and this was said to me by a PUP gentleman, that a certain company wanted to come in and do all the vegetables for Campbell Soup in the north when sugarcane was in a slump. It was in a slump. And essentially, this man at the top of the political heap at the time basically said, well, if you don't want to do business, I need a $10 million bribe. And the Campbell people basically said, we don't do that kind of business.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm saying that I don't take it as idle chatter because it's somebody highly placed in the party that said this to me about a highly placed minister at the time.
Did they, I imagine they're not growing the vegetables there. So obviously.
Well, remember, they're not, well, you want to grow things in the tropics because it could grow all year round.
No, I'm saying the
Of
fact
course,
that they didn't do it means that obviously they tell them, well, then you can't do nothing here, no?
Yeah, they moved on.
I remember
development.
I remember going to Cayman and met the guy Dart over there. This guy got pretty rich from making foam cups and stuff like that. Yeah. He came to Belize first. He wanted to invest in Belize. And he said every politician had their hand in their pocket. As they say, when they want something, he said, I can't, I don't make a penny yet. I can't operate like this. And he moved on. I went to Cayman.
Yes.
We invested and rebuilt half of Cayman.
Yes.
Our politicians and our corruption have cost us development opportunities. There's
Big
no
time.
doubt about
Big
that.
time.
Yes.
Though it has made a few people filthy rich.
I will tell you that in relation to the current administration, my disappointment, well, I wouldn't use the word disappointment. I'm a little, well, more than a little dismayed that when they were in opposition, they were making all the right noises in terms of reform.
They always do.
They even talk about
both parties does it.
And basically what they have done is they have now said that, well, we have our own version of UNCAC. We own version of UNCAC. If you have read the UNCAC framework, you know that you can have your own version of UNCAC.
But I understand they're bringing UNCAC in. That's
what they have said. Well, they have said when they got a little blowback that you can't have your own version of UNCAC. It's like the PUP lottery. They knew, well, the last I heard of it is that we will bring in some people in an advisory capacity. That would have been perhaps a year ago. Nothing has happened since then.
Yeah. Anyway, gentlemen, we're running out of time, and there's so many other things we want. Of course, our hearts go to the folks, the victims of the earthquake, which we understand now that the
12,000.
Over 12,000. That's a lot of people. Thank you, CY. We're doing a little fundraiser again this weekend for Valentine's. We have a fun day in the park. We had tried to get some funds for help a young lady, a child. She's actually about 11. Has her teeth is trying to get her some braces, because I think what we need to do now to not only help out the people who are sick and dying, but the young people, if we could create a better life for any of these kids.
Yes.
It's our duty to do that. And I think it'll make a big difference in this child's life, in her self-esteem, going out there and being able to deal with this, because the world is cruel, boy. And in particular, growing up like that, where you have a defect where the other kids can make fun of you, it's no joke. So we're doing that this weekend. Magali.
News breaking, got in my head, contemplating $8 million to build one street. Rasta, you can't find nothing.
Right?
The man jumped in early today.
Yeah, no, we quite early, actually 4 minutes to 10. And we start a bit late, remember? So, but yeah, just to give you a heads up that the time is coming. Guys, it's been and I've been wanting to talk about the China balloon. I'm wanting to talk about all the confidential files where they're pulling up if a different color. And you see the difference with the with the whole system in America where they went and searched Biden's home. That blew my mind. The second president.
Yes.
Now, the FBI went and searched his home. Now, can you see that happening in Belize? Can you see the police going and searching Dean Barrow's house, for instance? I don't care if there's rumor of bodies being hidden in there. I don't see it happening. Or even Johnny Briceño's, yes. Because I'll tell you the truth. I believe that
our politicians are untouchable because of the structure of government we have.
And the people that support it.
And the people that support it, and because we don't have true separation of government.
Well,
very good.
The arms of government. I think, though, that until stalwarts themselves start condemning these acts, it will never get fixed, because they always could condemn it when their government is out. It's not only the government that has the answers, it's the supporters. And when they get in, they have every reason to defend what they're doing.
They say, well, how they say it, good or bad, you're my baby.
There it is. And and that's bad. And that's bad. Yeah.
That's
guys, thank you very much again. C-Wild, thanks for your hosting us one more time.
Yes, sir.
We'll be on next week at the same time at 8 o'clock, and hopefully then we can get this constitutional expert. If not, Mr. Sylvester, because I had a conversation with the head of the commission, actually, Mr. Tony Chanona, and he is eager to come out, and he might be listening this evening because I invited him to do so, to come out and give us a few heads up and as well.
The devil with no wake up and stop sleep. Living in a Babylon, nothing sweet. Teaching your window and you still can't see. Lifestyle of the rich and the famous elite. They no sow nothing, the jewel and the reap.
Yeah, man.
This one I call breaking news. Remember say, newsy news. Designed by the system to keep your man fueled. Of previews, propaganda, fake news. Distort your views. Big man compromise their own values. Watch when we sing again. Breaking news. News breaking. All I believe is talking. Breaking news. News breaking. Poor people just keep on suffering. Breaking news. News breaking. Mama, please stop crying. Breaking news. News breaking. Scratching my head, contemplating. I am very elated that they find Kelvin, even though we don't get the full overstanding. And what about the rest of people them missing? Families still in a mourning. Psychological desensitizing. So when the real hit the fan, it won't be alarming. Breaking news is distracting. They want we keep forgetting about McAfee and the shit eating. Mason, Pastor Lou beheading. All the gun smuggling. Chinese man them killing. Passport duplicating. All the people under them keep on thieving. We need a solution for the gang banging. No fret, breaking news investigating. Breaking news, news breaking. All I believe is talking. Breaking news, news breaking. Most of it heart-wrenching. Breaking news, news breaking. Mama, please stop crying. Breaking news, news breaking. Scratching my head, contemplating. For years, we watch you no abuse, you no power. Most of things say we suffer from amnesia. Oppression, they pan for them agenda. You could tell by them aggressive nature. Cocaine is slip through the border, but for a weed seed, you get charged for murder. Forget about the threat from Guatemala. Like that, done on news, no money either. Election time, clipboard and paper. Then they fight forget me Lee signature. Them say CD, my life will be better. But a promise is nothing but a fool's comforter. No retreat, no surrender. Divided we fall, we stronger together. Add fire to the flame and blow lava on all of them politics stop. Breaking news breaking. The whole of Belize is talking. Breaking news breaking. Oh, people keep on suffering. Breaking news breaking. Hey, mama, please stop crying. Breaking news breaking. Got in my head, contemplating $8 million to build one lease street. Well, Rasta, you can't find nothing to eat. Greediness to the devil with no heartbeat. You have to wake up and stop sleep. Living in a Babylon, nothing sweet. Picture your window and you still can't see. Lifestyle of the rich and the famous elite. You know, so nothing, the jewel and the reap. Yeah. This one I call breaking news. Remember say